So right before you jumped on, we were talking to David, and David is talking about what's it going to be like to hike every day in and out for 10 days, 12 days in Nepal. And uh, David, you're totally fit. You're going to be fine. I, so these hikes are not, it's not a fitness race. It's not an endurance thing. It's actually pretty, I don't want to say easy. I think that would be wrong. It's physically challenging in just the right ways. Joseph, you were on this trip last year. How would you describe it?
Um, I would say it's challenging on the mellow side, meaning that you get to pace yourself. And it's not like, well, it's kind of interesting. They do everything a little bit different in Nepal. Instead of like signposts saying how far it is to like the next tea house or the next intersection or township, it's time hiking. So it's 2 hours to X. And that's Sherpa hiking hours. Right? And you got to figure Sherpa hiking hours is when you've got, a piano strapped on your back. and we're not going to have a piano strapped on our back. And one of the things that's super cool is like you get to choose how much you bring in your pack, and the rest goes into your duffel, and that's going to be carried by, well, in this case there's going to be a combination of porters and mules, correct, Brad?
Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the things that's really fun about Nepal is like, say your day is going to be 1,000 feet elevation gain. Well, you gain and lose that 1,000 feet maybe 4 times throughout the day. And so it's going,
Yeah,
it's super fun.
cool. My concern isn't for the latter half of the trekking. It's just probably the first few days. I'm at not quite a mile elevation here, and I'm guessing we're going to be starting at much higher elevation.
It's funny, we're not. Kathmandu is around 4,500 feet in elevation. And from Kathmandu for this trip, and this is a brand new trip for me too, we're going to far, far western Nepal. So we're going to fly, we fly one day, hang out, fly the next day again. And our elevation gain is not that much. And then we begin to gradually go up in elevation. And then we come down in elevation. So it's really interesting. Karuna and I, for the last 12 months with Joseph, really have crafted this trip. We decided, where can we go that truly no one goes, but it's still safe to go, if that makes sense. And so we went back and forth with our logistics operators. We're like, what can we do? This, that. All the trips were coming back like, yeah, sure, you can do this. It's 60 days in length. No, probably can't do that. So we fine-tuned it to this beautiful trip. We don't gain a huge amount of elevation. At the same time, we're in the mountains, and we're going to visit some really unique monasteries, really unique mountain environments that, again, I can't stress enough, no one goes to these places. And to me, that's super special. It's also super challenging because for me as the trip leader, I gotta tell you, I don't know exactly what we're gonna get into. That's exciting and that's stressful for me all at the same time. So that's what it is.
What were everyone's our leaders' thoughts on the COVID? Obviously, it's a risk in travel, airline and airport stuff. Once we're there, we won't see a lot of people. There'll be locals. I guess they're probably more at risk than we are from us.
Very good question, David. So it's funny. My wife has had COVID. Six tests later, I show up negative. Colorado state officials think I've probably had it and never knew it. I don't know. It's been an interesting evolution for Tanya and I to go through this thing. Like she's sick, but she never even knew she had it. Okay, so then we take that to Nepal, and okay, we're Westerners, we're going to travel, we want to travel, but then what is the risk we present to these communities? And I think that's a really important, valid thing to consider. To fly into Nepal, we have to show up with a negative PCR test. We land, we stay a few days in Kathmandu, and then for every flight we take, and we're going to take 2 flights to get to where we're going to go in Western Nepal, each flight we have to qualify with negative PCR tests. That's pretty easy. I've talked to my friends there. That's not a big obstacle, but it's a great concern. So we prove to these local communities that we're not just out of selfish interest bringing this virus to them. I think right now that's the best we can do. And then when we fly back to Kathmandu, we're going to have to repeat the same process, take a PCR test. They're really quick. They're really easy in Nepal. We get it done. We land in Nepal. We stay in our hotel. And I've talked personally to the owners of our hotel in Kathmandu, who I'm friends with. I've been friends with them for, almost 20 years. When we arrive, when we exit, they're going to make sure our stay there is as safe as it can be, as roomy as it can be in terms of, they don't operate on the 6 feet, all is safe, but they operate on space is safety. So they are so far beyond us, quite honestly, in making sure things are safe. And I think that's the best we can do. I feel good about it. I feel good that everyone in Nepal is on board in making sure people are safe. They don't want to get sick. They don't want to bring people who are sick. And yet, quite honestly, they depend on tourism. And so they're working hard. They're working hard to make sure we can still do what we want to do, but we're not going to bring this virus to remote areas. And I got to tell you, again, 20 years in Nepal, the last thing I want to do is bring this thing to remote areas, the remote areas I care so much about. So I think we put everything in place as well as we can.
I don't even know where we depart from. I'm guessing some of the flying's included in the price, but I don't know from where or.
So everything, once you land in Nepal, everything is included except the tips for the local crew. Yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, so you land in Nepal, you show up, You're going to land in the middle of the night or the middle of the day. You won't know what time it is because you're halfway around the world. We will pick you up. The hotel in Kathmandu is fantastic. Again, it's a place I've stayed for 20 years. These are my friends. We stay in Kathmandu. And then once we start to move towards Western Nepal, we take one flight. It's always a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie. It's a pain in the ass. It's third world developing country flights, in-country flights, but those are all covered. They're all covered. We fly there. We spend a night. We're actually really close to India on that night, really close to the jungles. The next day we fly towards Humla, and we go way, way across the country. And that's where we're close to China, India, Pakistan. And we're in a part of Nepal no one goes. And that's cool. So it is 2 days of flights, but those flights are covered. Everything in country is covered other than, again, kind of tips for local crews, that kind of thing.
So we need to get ourselves to Nepal on our own dime.
Yes. International flights, you kind of have to cover.
Can I add something? So the Kathmandu guest house where we'll be staying is very. Are you Joseph? Were you saying something to me?
No, I was just mouthing, oh, it's so nice.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it's very open air. So if you're like thinking you're walking into a Holiday Inn or something, that's not the case. It's this beautiful open air space that so anytime that you're eating, anytime that we're meditating, anytime that we're getting together to have tea or wine, depending on the time of the day or depending on who's involved, that's all in open space. And when you're even going out to like shop for your last minute things that you realized you forgot and you absolutely have to have, like me, such as good coffee, you know, those shops are very open space. So I guess for me, when I think about it, like Joseph and I have been very careful about how we operate in the world COVID wise. I share your concern about taking my weird germs into a developing nation, but that's true without COVID. You know, we have different stuff going on depending on where we live in the world, and I think it's a valid concern. But when I think about like landing in the country itself, I feel when I say in the like little marketing things, social distancing is kind of built into the trip. I mean that. It's not like me. That's my experience, is that once you get there, it's a part of what you will experience. That's really beautiful about Nepal. And I'll just quickly share my experience. In August, I went to Hawaii. And while that's certainly not a developing nation, it does involve quite a bit of air travel. And my experience was this. I did pay for the upgrade to be in business class so that I had more room. I did wear a KN95 mask because I think that's what we all should be wearing all the time. And I was just careful. I planned my travel differently. I ate before I got to the airport. I brought along my own snacks. I really was vigilant about my sanitizing my hands, and I just kind of kept to myself. I put on my headphones and I just sort of kept to myself. So instead of it being this opportunity to like all over people and back, I really kind of kept to myself. And I think that might be how we travel in the future, to be honest with you. And so does it feel a little edgy? Yeah, it does. And I am so excited to go to Nepal. I can't even contain myself. And I feel like particularly the two gentlemen who Brad has worked with for a long time, Gokul and Dayula, who will become your friends, if they didn't want us there, they would tell us.
Yep.
So
yep.
I feel confident.
And Karina, I don't mean to cut you off. we've talked about this trip ever since last year when we did this last November, and we were so excited to go back. And Gokul and I talk every other week by phone, by video. Like, these are guys I've known forever. And Gokul at the time said, don't come in the spring. Do not, or sorry, the fall. Don't come in the fall of 2020. Don't do it. Don't do the, I don't feel safe. I don't think it's safe for you guys to come. And now he's like, absolutely, May is good. Come. And he would not, again, 20 years of knowing this guy, he's not going to tell me these things unless it's cool. And he's like, yeah, okay. Spring of 2021, I think we're good. One thing we do have to do is get pre-registered. So our logistics guys in Nepal have to send everyone a letter in the US allowing them to enter Nepal. And that's just, it sounds more complicated than it is, because it's going to be easy to do because of our relationship with these guys. Other than that, I can tell you from what I know right now, we're going to wear masks in public areas, probably. We're absolutely going to wear masks on flights, but once we're trekking, once we're out and we're in tents and we have our cook crew and our support crew, we won't have to do anything ridiculous in terms of mask wearing unless you want to. And so that's kind of where we are. I think things will change between now and May. But the good thing is Nepal is open, and, they want us there. My friends are telling us all the safety protocols, they're pretty in line with what we're doing anyway in the US.
I feel really safe in terms of my personal health and safety.
Yeah.
I tend to be a better carrier than symptomatic on almost anything. O negative blood and all that. My concern was more about what you covered very well, and that was being a risk to others. And so I'm gonna be trying to get my vaccinations, because here I qualify next week, I guess, or something, in about a week, I think. And so that's not a thing. But I have a close buddy, a native Hawaiian on Molokai, and I like to go and spend lots of time there, and we just go free dive, spearfishing. He subsistence hunts, and I do that with him, and hang out with just his family. And their experience, obviously 400 years ago, was to lose something like a third of their population to European diseases when Cook or whoever the whalers were that discovered the islands. And I think they lost 800,000 out of 3 million or something of their population just right away. And so they're really cautious, and I don't blame them, and I totally get it. I was just asking.
Yep.
It all sounds good to me, and things are going to change. We don't really know, between vaccinations increasing and new strains increasing, we don't really know what it'll look like, but we'll find out.
And what I love, David, is I think we all want to go on this trip, but we're all concerned about, what do we bring? What is our impact? And so that is certainly not negated. That is not going unnoticed as we plan this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I missed everything. Oren, Autumn, hi Jeremy, it's good to see you. Do y'all have questions?
Not at this point, no. Becky's shared a little bit of the information with me, but not a lot. Is this late May or early May?
So it's
how long?
early May, first 2 weeks of May.
First 2 weeks. Okay. Sorry, the kids are being really noisy, so I'm going to go back on mute here.
And appropriately sassy. Awesome. Don't you want 2 weeks away from that? I mean, I would be like signing on the dotted line if I were you, man.
Yeah, well, sounds pretty good. These guys can, take care of themselves pretty well. With grandma and grandpa's help, they'll be fine. But yeah, they're in a mood. We just finished dinner and it's dessert time, and they're kind of excited.
Our foster is causing a lot of ruckus, so sorry we keep running back and forth. But no, I think we covered a lot of our questions last time. I think my concerns are not with the trip. I'd be all in otherwise, but I just have a lot to consider health-wise for myself, and trying to balance all that.
Okay. And Autumn, as you know, man, I'm always here. So you can reach out, phone, email, whatever it is. I know you're balancing some things. So just know I know that, and
Okay.
Call, talk anytime.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think the biggest thing, for me, this trip on a normal day would be difficult. Not difficult, like in terms of the hiking, but just, it's a lot of medicine and a lot of things I have to pack and all of that. Mm-hmm. And with COVID and the fact that I relapsed last year, like it's just a lot to consider. So
Yep.
I really want to go, but it's just.
Yeah, like what I'm sitting here wondering is like, I mean, are you sure? Can we not help? I mean, can I not help you with the meds, or last year we had to have an extra porter help us with a gal because she needed a little extra support. Is it a matter of you needing to just ask for a little extra help, and could we provide that for you so you can come?
No, it's not. I mean, carrying it or that's not really the issue. It's just, being physically able.
And maybe that's a call you and I have separately. But rest assured, as Karuna says, man, we can fine tune anything. That's
You'd be amazed.
That's the beauty of our trips, is they're really custom. They're really built around people we have worked with forever. And so shit happens, and trust me, it happens all the time. And so we adjust and we carry on, and we do a really good job of kind of paying attention to these things. All behind the curtain, so you never know. No one is brought out that like, oh, this person needs extra attention. No, that's not how it works. It's all really custom and really cool. And maybe you and I talk and make sure everything is taken care of. But in general, again, this is a very custom trip. This is what we do, and it's so fun to do really special trips with cool people. So
yeah, and just as your friend, Autumn, I don't want to like reveal too much about like other people who have gone on the trip, but our last adventure together, we had people who were survivors of cancer. We had people who were physically at sea level and came up to the level that, I don't know what we were at, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 feet. And they hiked a little bit slower. Don't worry, Joseph will be with you, so it'll work out great. Like we have, sorry.
I'll be with you too. I'll be with you too.
I won't, but that's okay. I will be if you need me. And I think that's my point. So like there were a couple of days that I hiked with people who needed a little moral support. And we had a lot of fun. We ate Snickers bars and like took a lot of pictures. And I'm trying to use an F word that isn't the right F word because there's a kid and I can't think of one. We just had fun. I can't think of the word that's not the swear word. I'm so sorry.
So on our last trip in the fall, we had a dear friend of mine, Renee. I first met Renee. She's from Malaysia. Renee, I took her on an expedition to Aconcagua. Big mountain, South America, highest mountain outside of Asia. Renee is a breast cancer survivor. She's still battling it. Again, I met her a decade ago. She came on this trip and Renee needed a few special tweaks here and there. But what was really cool is we all enjoyed our partnership with her and we never let her go outside of the team. And so if I can, through that example, show that nothing's gonna,
She got to ride a horse.
She got to ride a horse.
She got to ride a horse, and then we all went shopping, and then we had Ricky Poos together, and it was amazing. And we never ever, like, I feel like our team was closer at the end of that experience. Yep. And then we spent just a couple of nights kind of apart. We had an amazing time. So just as your friend, Autumn, I'm gonna so encourage you. I personally will help you in any way, shape, or form.
Anything that pops up, we're gonna take care of, and we're gonna take care of it in a very quick, professional manner. I've spent 30 years leading expeditions, and I don't overlook much. Everything's going to be taken care of.
I'd like to add something to this, and that is the conversation of team versus objective. Mm-hmm. Like our objectives shifted throughout the trip to create team. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a really important part of that pivot and shift and camaraderie and getting everybody onto the common denominator rather than, oh, there's this particular pass that we want to get to and that's the objective. And if you can't do it, tough. That wasn't like that. It was like, oh, this is what our team's capacity is, and we're all going to do it together, and it's going to be great. And that's and it felt so good that it wasn't about, oh, it's about the objective. And so I just want to concur that this idea of when we're together as a team, we are a team and we're supporting each other. And it's not about something else.
Thanks,
that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
I want to share about my background a little bit as far as being in the hills and the woods. I've been in nature since I could walk and have been trained in medicine by a Swiss trained general surgeon all my life because I was being groomed to be a surgeon like both his parents were, and also have had lots of first aid training and certifications that I haven't kept up, but the knowledge is still there. And so I could take your appendix out. You wouldn't be very comfortable, but you'd live. So seriously, I mean, if a helicopter couldn't get there and you were going to die from acute appendicitis, if we had enough whiskey to pour on it, we could probably get the job done. But not saying that that's anticipated. I'm just saying that I'm very calm in crisis, and if there's a problem, I have some background.
Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully my appendix won't burst. That is still intact at this point.
So do you guys have any just general questions, like day in, day out, what's going to happen? Anything like that?
Sure. Actually, a couple of practical questions.
Yeah.
So what's the temperature range likely to be where we're going in early May?
Early May, Western Nepal. It's very similar to springtime in the U.S., except that we will be at a little higher altitude than a lot of people experience here in the States. So, you know, it's generally kind of, you're going to have spring storms and that type of situation. It's Northern Hemisphere, same type of spring season, but you're looking at pretty decent temperatures, like maybe at night 20, 30 degrees at the higher altitudes, and during the day 80 degrees. Pretty nice on a nice day. If it's not a nice day, you know, it's hard to say what the weather's going to be, but it's going to be a realm of just below freezing to really nice 70, 80 degree temps.
Brad, can you talk a little bit also just about you and your background? Some folks know that you've been exploring this area for a long time. Other people may not. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And then also literally kind of a little bit about where we're going. I mean, you say Western Nepal, you know what that means. Most of us don't necessarily know what that means.
Gotcha. So I think, you know, when we go there in May, I believe I have to look back at my calendars. I think that's going to be my 21st or 22nd trip to Nepal. I spent a fair time there. It is my home away from home. It is where I share brotherhood with the guys we're going to be working with, the guys we're going to be traveling with. Like, I love these guys. I know their sons and daughters. Like, man, I love it. And Karuna and Joseph have met some of my friends and probably fallen in love with them. They're special people to me over years of time. So I've probably spent 21, 22 times going to Nepal over the course of 15 to 20 years of travel. So again, it is a very special place for me. It's a place I know, it's a place I understand as well as you can understand it. It's still exotic, it's still cool. Western Nepal, let's talk about that, because I've never been to Western Nepal. This will be a very new experience for me as well. Kathmandu is the capital city. Kathmandu is kind of located, if you look at a map, kind of in the central eastern part of the country. We're going way west, way west. So we're flying way towards China, India, the border there. It's a place where no tourists really go. To me, that is what fascinated me about developing this trip. It's new, it's exciting, it's a journey, it's an adventure. most people in Nepal, they land in Kathmandu, and they're either going to go straight north towards the Annapurna region or east towards Everest, Kachenjunga, those regions of the country. And the country is very small. The country is, if you can picture, it's about 600 miles wide, east to west, and about 200 miles tall, south to north. It's very small. So we're going to the end of the western part of the country. It's complicated logistically, and yet it's this beautiful area that is essentially Tibetan in culture. So everyone we will encounter, although it's very close to India and China, it's Tibetan. They speak Tibetan, they look Tibetan, they are disassociated from the politics and the culture of Kathmandu. So it's gonna be pretty cool. And it, even for me, it's gonna be an adventure, and yet we have such cool logistics in place. Did that answer your question, Karuna?
Will Dailula be joining us?
I'm sorry, what's that, Joseph?
Will Dailula be joining us?
No, but Gokul will. Gokul wants to personally
will.
join us.
Ah, very good.
Yeah.
How are the glaciers holding up as far as we just heard in the news, of course, about the big glacier collapse, and that was horrendous.
It was horrendous. And that, I think we're going to see that more and more over the next few years. Right now, the glaciers in and around where we're visiting, they're going to be fine. But most of the big glacial lakes in Nepal, the big glacial lakes, are in the Everest region. So that's a little more northeast of Kathmandu. They're going to break. I think it's going to be horrendous. And I don't know if it's going to be this year, next year, 10 years, 15 years from now. But it's a huge risk for the down valley communities. Where we're traveling, it's just not the same geography. So
what is
Thank
the
you.
geography like?
I don't know. This is going to be fun. I think we're going to have a lot of more jungle lowland experience, but at the same time, we're going to be next to Mount Api. Api is huge, 23,000 feet. So it's going to be, I think we're going to see a larger range of vegetation, elevation, general experience than we did in November of 2019.
Are we going to see a musk deer?
So Karuna, her whole dream has been to see these musk deer, which literally have little tusks coming out of their mouth.
No, they are a deer and they have tusks. And I don't know why anyone would not be obsessed with seeing that. And don't you think I deserve to see a musk deer, people, at this point? So are we going to see them?
No.
Damn. We're going to see a tiger?
We could. On our first flight, we are damn near the Indian border. We're like
Good.
in the Terai, the lower plains of Nepal.
Common leopard?
Well, they're in Kathmandu.
Snow? Well, yeah, you're not. I mean, well, like what kind of common leopard are we talking about? What about snow leopard?
Western Nepal has the highest density of snow leopard. So you never know.
So last trip, we part of our seva was to go to the 108th monastery.
Yes.
and that was an exceptionally amazing experience. Is there something similar or different planned as as what for this trip? You know what we're going to be doing.
We will camp underneath one of the most special monasteries in all of Nepal. And Corinna, I think you know this monastery more than I do. And it is, from what I understand, for Western Nepal, the icon of Buddhism and Hinduism. So they combine in Nepal, they combine their religious beliefs. It's almost pagan in reading on this and talking to Gokul and Dayula, my friends there. They say this is a very special place, and it's a lake where we will be camping, and we'll be looking upon the monastery. And we have a whole day in our schedule to visit, and we will be able to visit the monastery and enjoy a puja, a religious ceremony with the monks in this place.
So in case you're thinking about going next year, that's why you don't go next year. And I really mean that. Last year we went to, well, last year, which is, by the way, 2 years ago, which is weird. We went to Phu, the village of Phu, and had a very beautiful experience at that monastery. And it doesn't matter if you're religious or spiritual or not, to be in a place where people hold space for beautiful spiritual things to happen, you can't deny it. I mean, you can sit and say, well, I'm not really into it, but you can't deny the potency of a place like that.
I don't think anyone left, and I'm not Buddhist. I'm not, I don't meditate in the same way that many people do. I don't think anyone left the Phu monastery without a tear. You know, it bonded all of us together. It was, yeah. So. All right.
Stunned into silence. Perfect. I think that Brad probably has some maps. We have an itinerary. I think it's even posted, but the itinerary doesn't meet. Like if you go to Google a lot of those things, you're gonna be like, do they even exist? It's, you know, it's an adventurous trip. And
Well, and you and Joseph saw this last year. Yeah, we create an itinerary, but we also build in a lot of latitude within that itinerary. And so what happens is the trip. And we do this trip, and nothing is for certain except for we need to get back to Kathmandu on a certain date. And other than that, we create, we pivot, we work around. And to me, that's so beautiful that here's point A, here's point B. Somewhere in there, we're going to have a fantastic trip because of our partners in the country, because of our experience. And yet we keep an eye to making sure we all have a special trip, depending on special needs. And to your point, Joseph, creating a sense of team, that's hugely important. And that's what we do.
oh, and to that point, I'm not a big team person. I'm an only child. I super love to hike by myself. I super love to cross country ski by myself. I was actually a little nervous because I'm obviously one of the leaders, and like I knew I needed to hold space for like us last time having a container where we would meditate if you wanted to. You didn't have to. Brad never did. Everyone else did. And all of those things. But I think because it's a small group and it's a mindful group, and we laughed so hard every day until we would cry, and people were respectful along the trek. So if people were quiet and walking, or if they wanted to talk and were walking, like you just sort of found your pace, you found your group. I never ever felt overwhelmed in like the group setting. And we had really planned on kind of the pinnacle of the trip being Kongla Pass. But physically the team was sort of, I don't know, over being gross and dirty and tired. So we decided to go back, and instead we did a couple extra days of more shishi lala. And I don't think anyone regretted that. Like it was kind of like Phu, going to the village of Phu and having this amazing experience with basically people who looked like Brooklyn yogis in the village of Phu with like their hats, and like, I mean, they just were like this modern monks who knew all the chants, presented us this beautiful ceremony, heartfelt, but they could have been walking the streets of Brooklyn with how they looked. So it was this beautiful intersection of cultures. And I think we all kind of walked back down and went, wow, that was the trip. And so instead of having to go conquer like a pass, which is like things that I do, we didn't. And we went back and just continued to enjoy one another. And I think that's what makes it special. It makes it's a very special experience. And I hope that you all join, because I love you all so much.
Cool. Cool. And, you know, whether you have my contact information or not, Karuna, Joseph can get that to you. I'm always here. And wow, it's approaching fast. So I just love that it's going to happen. I look forward to it. And let me know if you have questions, concerns. Let's talk.
Sounds good.
Do we have
Thank
time
you
for
all so
one more
much.
question? Do we have
Sorry.
time for one more question?
Absolutely.
So the last trip, it was kind of built around tea house to tea house, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
How is this trip going to be different?
Good question, Joseph. So tea houses in Nepal are kind of like bad hotels. and that it's just what exists in Nepal. For this trip, we're going to fly from Kathmandu, spend another night in a hotel midway before we go towards Humla, where we will spend another night in a hotel. So a few nights in hotels, and then a couple nights in tea homes. And then we are going to be in tents with our own cook crew, porter crew, that whole thing, but very different from November of 2019, where we spent every night in a tea house. We're going to be camping in tents. And for me, I love that because one, I love just escaping the tea house situation, but it's also more intimate with our own crew, our own guys that are there with us for almost 2 weeks, that are cooking and taking care of us and living with us. So yeah, Joseph, good point. Most of this trip is going to be tent.